All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to September's window shopping episode. So, if you don't know what this series is, at the start of every month, I like to look at the trends for notable items on the NA server, and even if you aren't on the NA server, it's probably a good idea to just see what's happening, and maybe you can see if it's better or worse there. And there's a lot of stuff I wanted to talk about in this month, especially because in about 2 weeks from now, we get Land of the Morning Light Part 2, and that also includes a lot of new things like the Sovereign Weapons, and so some of the items that we're going to be talking about now are going to be affected, and I wanted to give my thoughts and opinions, and also see where the marketplace is generally at. And I think a lot of you guys like this one just because I give you my opinions on is something worth buying, selling, or making at the moment, and usually I have a pretty good idea of what I can predict is going to happen. But either way, as usual, if you want to check out any of the former months of these episodes, you can check the link in the description. I'll have a playlist to all of that, and you can see what has been happening over the entire month. So, okay, so let's get started with the weapons. As we all know, Sovereign Weapons are coming out in less than 2 weeks, and what does that mean? There's a few ways to get the new Sovereign Weapons. Admittedly, it's more for the endgame players, and then I don't think you should rush it. So if you're like, I don't know, you don't have 2 pen Blackstars, there's going to be other ways to actually get it, like grinding and collecting flames or whatever the equivalent is. But for endgame players, one of the options is going to be having 2 pen Blackstars. They gave everyone a free pen Blackstar a couple months ago, and like if you've had one already, then you have 2. So the items for Blackstar, it doesn't matter which one, or Main Hand and Awakening, are probably going to be changing in the future. So let's talk about this from the Tet level first. If you are not at the end game and you're like, oh, I should probably get a Tet Blackstar, now is probably a good time. What I would recommend doing is probably just saving up and buying a Tet Blackstar, because enhancing it, I've done a lot of Blackstar enhancing. I even have an entire 0 to pen series you can watch, and the rates are not so good, but the price right now is at like an all-time low. So if you can just save up enough silver and buy it, you should probably do that now. For everyone else at going for pen, so what do I predict is going to happen? When Sovereign Weapons come out, people are gonna obviously buy a second pen Blackstar simply because, hey, you need 2 of them to get the new weapon. So I think as of now, today is September 2nd, I think that the price is gonna go up a little bit, maybe a little bit over 100 bill, and then as time passes and like Sovereign Weapons are already out and all the endgame players already have it, I think the price is gonna slowly drop again to like normal price. So right now it's currently at like 88, and I think for like September it's probably gonna go up a little bit, but I also don't think it is an item that you need to rush to get, simply because once you get Sovereign Weapons, it only goes up 1 AP per like upgrade. So yes, that is good, but if you are not at endgame, there are ways to make 1 AP for, you know, not the amount of silver that the endgame is going to ask for. So once again, there are multiple ways to get a Sovereign Weapon, and I'll probably make a guide and stuff when that happens. I tried not to spoil myself too much in terms of like how to do it and everything. I kind of want to figure it out, like all the questing and everything on day 1. But if you're planning on buying it, just know, try to get it sooner than later, and or you either get it later when it drops again. So either right now or probably like 2 months from now. Anyway, so that's my prediction on Blackstars. If you're trying to enhance it yourself, I've said this over the past few months that I think it's probably better to raw tap your Tet to pens nowadays, because back in the day when these were like 15, 16 billion each, it's definitely more cost effective to cron everything. But the amount of stacks you're going to need once you get sovereign weapons is kind of a lot. So I think that either building a stack or your tet goes to pen is a better idea. Depends on how you build your fail stacks is how much it'll cost, but overall I think you should raw tap your tets to pens nowadays and then hope it goes, or you get a nice stack for the future. So with that said, that's about it. Let's talk about the awakening weapon. It doesn't really matter which one I'm looking at, I just know Dark Knight ones. So same thing goes, you should be raw tapping in my opinion. And the price has already started going up again for the sovereign weapons. So same idea, if you're trying to buy it, you either buy it before September 12th, was when it comes out on NA and EU, or you get it the other way and you don't need a second one, like by grinding and doing other stuff, collecting materials, or you buy it like 2 months down the line when all the endgame players already have their thing and like the price goes down again. So yeah, if you are looking to enhance Black Stars and sell them, the one to go for is probably the sub weapon, because this one is not going to have a sovereign weapon, at least not at launch, maybe like a year from now or so, because it's actually, when you think about it, it's very hard to balance a sovereign offhand, simply because Nuvers are used for PvP and Kudums are more for PvE, and Black Stars are just like slightly better PvE than Kudum. But I always say this in my other videos, if you have a pen Kudum at Capris 20 and you're wondering what's the difference between a Black Star, is you're actually just getting like a small amount of monster AP, but you are trading off a little bit of accuracy. So yes, Black Star is better, but will you notice a difference? Not really, unless you are literally at the high end and all your gear is already capped, and at that point then like 100 bill is nothing for you. So yeah, if you're going to enhance for profit, it's always going to be the offhand right now, simply because it's worth more, and because there's no sovereign weapon coming out, the price of a tet is higher, as well as pens are higher, so like you just get more money for the same amount of stacks and everything. But yeah, if you're wondering, is it better to upgrade to a Black Star, or you have a cheaper pen Capris 20 Kudum, just know that you probably won't notice the difference unless you are already like at the end game. So yeah, that's about it. If you're enhancing, this is probably the one to go for. Other than that, if you're a PvPer, Nuver, and from beginner all the way up until near the end game-ish, like entry level end game, if that makes sense, Kudum, and then Black Star for the end game. Also, for all the people out there who just like to have three, like I have to match the same weapons, then yeah, I understand. So you can do that. All right, so let's go into armors. Let's talk about this really quickly because they're mostly the same as last month. I'll tell you what stacks I use to enhance all of mine. So like all my Fallen God armors, they're self-made tets, so that means I have put a lot of silver into it. Okay, so your ultimate goal is to get like Fallen God, or basically the red one, and then Slumbering Origin armor set, essentially. So what stacks did I use to enhance it? From base to pry, you could probably start at like 80 and then go up to like 100 or so, and then from pry to duo, you could probably start at like 100, or like if you have 100 stack from an event, plus the Valk Scries, plus the whatever extra you get from your journals, you probably already have a 115. Like 113 at minimum. I think that's a good entry point. So like 113 up to like 130, 140-ish, and then start over. And then from duo to try, I personally think that between like 150 to 200 is a good idea, and simply because the price jump is a little bit more than double. And then from try to tet, you literally use like 250 to 290-ish, maybe 280. So the reason why you use a high stack on Tet is, one, because we looked at the pen black stars earlier, and those are like the highest, most valuable items next to pen Deberekas. And so these are more expensive than that, and you should probably use a high stack because I think at like a 250 fail stack, it's about a 5% chance enhance rate. So on average, in theory, it should be cheaper to make it yourself than buying it. So I think for 3 out of the 4 of the ones that I made myself, I definitely made it cheaper than the market value. And the 4th one was the worst one, and I felt like I broke even. I didn't spend more, but I just like broke even in terms of market price. So either way, it's better to make it yourself, always crown it, and then you're good to go. Okay, so for all of you beginners out there, and you're wondering, what should I get? Gaiath or Griffin? I personally think that Griffin is slightly better, simply because the difference is you get 100 extra HP in your effect versus 5% resistances. So I do value the all resistance 5%, and if you plan on doing any sort of PvP in this game, as you guys know, CCs are more critical than HP. So like if you get knocked down and then like chain CC'd for a little bit, chances are the resistance is slightly more valuable than 100 HP. Will you notice a difference? Probably not. But in terms of value, I think if not, like if the resistance does work, then you're good to go. But either way, your ultimate goal is to get your Libresca, and if you just buy the Capris and everything, you can just skip it and I'll just straight up buy it. And for all of you who don't like to enhance and you're thinking, hey, I just want to buy it and not have to worry about it, what I would honestly do is, I understand that people don't like enhancing, so what I would do is probably buy it at Duo and then just cron it up to Tet, because I think on average you can make it cheaper than the price, or you could buy it at Tri or Silent and then enhance it to Tet yourself. I think on average you will save money. Okay, so next we have Fallen God Armor. Same stack supply. The reason why this one is cheaper is because this is the first one that came out in terms of the Fallen God set. So in order of the gear pieces, the chest armor came out first, followed by the helmet. Third is the gloves, and then 4th is the shoes. We'll talk about that in the future, or in a little bit. So that's why the prices are a little bit different. And so same fail stack supply. Depending on what server you're on, you should probably check the Red Nose and Dim Tree prices at Pen if you're planning on self-crafting it. Simply because, unlike other pieces, Red Nose requires a little bit less Capris than Dim Tree at Capris 10, or 2 Capris 10 at Pen. So you have to check the prices. There's probably a calculator out there. And let's see. So on NA, a Pen Red Nose is probably like 16, like 16.5 billion, that's actually kind of a lot, to be honest. And then a Pen Red Nose is 14. So a new player would be like, oh, okay, so they're both at Pen and you just need Capris 10, right? Just keep in mind, you need a little bit of extra Capris stones on the Dim Tree than you do on the Red Nose, so you're gonna have to calculate the value on that. But I think it does break even if you calculate it. So ultimately that's up to you, whichever one is cheaper, figure that out. But in terms of like effect, increased HP recovery versus 200 HP pool, I do value the HP pool higher than recovery, but at this stage in the game, it's in 2024, everyone is super geared these days and it won't make too much of a difference. But yeah, either way, if you were to ask me this like 5 years ago, the HP pool is definitely more valuable than recovery. All right, gloves. So this is where things branch off into DR versus evasion. And I'm going to just say this now, if you don't know what to do, probably it's DR for you. And the reason why people go evasion is because some of their class passives go more directly towards evasion, and I do think at very end game, evasion is slightly better than DR, but you have to be like super geared to the point where that matters. And so anyway, let me do this real quick so that doesn't bother people. Okay, so anyway, blue one is DR, green is evasion. If you have one or the other and you decide you want to re-roll your class and you're like, oh, do I have to make it another one? No, you just talk to the NPC and you can swap between blue and green or green and blue and keep whatever enhance you're at. So like, let's say you got a Tet one, you can swap it at Tet or any other like tier you're at. So let's keep that in mind. Let's see, how much are these? 190 billion for the gloves. That's actually kind of high. Yeah, so like 185, 190. I think for all the pieces you can self-craft Tet yourself instead of buying it. And so let's see, how much are Begs? 16 billion. Libers are 13.5 billion. Let me just see something real quick. Because, oh, that's 17. That's insane. Okay. So people are probably like, if you're a new player, you're probably wondering, okay, so this one gives 62 DP, but just look at the accuracy. It's 50. They changed it a few months ago, so it's a little bit less of a curve. But if you see this one, it's also 50 accuracy and 62. But what you look at is the evasion and DR spread. And so you'll notice that it's a little bit different. So at the end of the day, your goal is to get your Dawn gloves, and Libra goes to green, Bags goes to blue. You can always swap them. It's not a big deal. So whatever the cheapest option for you is, do that one. Or if you are the person who likes saving for it and you want to skip the entire grind process, like just buy it at Duo, self-enhance to Tet. All right. Ator shoes. These are probably going to be more expensive than everything else currently, simply because these are the newest ones. And when I say new, I mean like they're probably like half a year old at this point, maybe almost a year. But they're still the latest ones that came out of the 4. And, you know, the way you get them is from the high-end grind spots. So that means you have to already be geared to do this. So either way, Libers, or not Libers, Uragons is the DR route. It is 16 billion. Muskin is 13.5 billion. And 79 DP, right? Versus also 79, but you look at the spread. This is one of those things that's a little bit trickier to talk about, simply because if you're not at the end game, this should not even be on your radar until you can actually grind the end game spots. But I understand that some people just want to have the nicest things early. So here's what I do. These prices look all the same. Buy it at Duo, self-enhance it, kind of like every other piece we talked about. Duo, and then self-craft. Yeah, that's about it. And I know I didn't really mention, like, you know, the Blackstar armors for everything. They're not worth it. So let me tell you a story of why these are even in the game and what do they do. So a few years ago, back when the first Fallen God armor came out, we had a Capris drought. So like Capris stones were basically sold out on the market for a solid like 8 months or something. And the way to get Fallen God armor was, you know, Caprising the like boss gear. So they came out with this item called Blackstar armors for every piece, and essentially getting this to pen was a way to exchange this for the Fallen God without the Capris process. And obviously it was fine then, but now in 2024, when Capris stones are just sitting on the market, it's not so great. So if you're about to ask, is it ever worth enhancing it? No, the fail stacks for these, trying to make it yourself is not worth it, because it's just like, it's going to be more expensive, and just like the Tet to pen fail stack number is kind of wild. So you're better off literally just saving money and straight up buying the end game thing yourself. So that's the story of why Blackstar armors existed. And no, it's not worth it. Okay, so let's talk about accessories. This is actually going to be insane because Deberekas have always been the endgame items. They are still the endgame items. However, you can just buy them now. So, a few months ago, if you were to ask me, what should you do? And there are a few alternatives to things you can do for like people who are going up into the endgame. So, accuracy accessories, these are, they're not doing so great now. Like, it looks like they're going up, but when you remember, these used to be like 180 to 200 billion, and now they're like 50 billion. Like, one sold 2 days ago for 41, and that's the lowest I've seen, and they're slightly going up. So just be careful with accuracy accessories for now. I don't think they're bad. I just don't think that like they're worth making right now. So like, just be careful with that. I don't know how to predict whether these are worth it or not. So like, I don't think they're bad, but right now in the current meta of PvP, accuracy accessories are kind of irrelevant. So just keep that in mind. But anyway, for all of you PvEers out there and people who just like seeing the big number on your sheet, Deberekas are the way to go. Tungrads are more for the PvP side, and I don't actually know, like, is it worth having the like 3-set effect for the extra Black Spirit Rage and trading off a little bit of AP for that? I don't know the numbers well enough to be able to tell you, but for most people, I would just recommend a flat line of damage. Like, so here's how it goes. If you have Tungrad, you're doing like damage, and then you get your 200 and you do big damage for a little bit and then you go back to normal. Whereas if you have Deboreka, you're just doing straight higher damage across the board, but with no burst, if that makes sense at all. So here's Deboreka rings. This is actually something that surprised me a little bit. So back in the day, I would say a few months ago, you could not just buy rings on the market so freely. You would have to get it, and yeah, I guess it's time for me to start clicking for pen at some point. And the fact that you can just buy pens, it's kind of insane, actually. Like, these are literally endgame items, and these are the things that you should go for. Myself included, I've been working on pens or going for pens lately as well. And then ever since I went pity going for a tet, like, I failed like 10 times in a row, and it costed me like 70 billion. I'm just like, I don't want to enhance anymore, and just took a break from that. But then here we are now that I just want to do that. But if you're thinking about buying a pen and you're at the end game right now, what you want to do is just save up silver, because sovereign weapons are definitely going to give more than 3 AP upgrades. So like from 21 to 24 is 3 AP. Just keep in mind, I think you could probably get more from sovereign than a pen Deboreka. So just wait another like 10 days and see how that goes before deciding you want to just buy a pen Debo. So just keep that in mind. But it is actually insane that, like, for everyone who has Tet, like, the price has been... I'm surprised. I thought the line would have been like more flat over the years, but like, as time goes on, everything obviously drops in price. So I didn't expect it to drop from last month at like 70 billion all the way down to 40. So it's kind of insane how the market works, actually. Necklaces, Deboreka necklace. If you are going into the end game and you're wondering which Deboreka accessory should I go for first, you go for the necklace first, simply because this just straight up gives the most AP. It gives 40. And it's also probably the cheapest because, it's been out the longest. So in terms of if you are buying it, you want to get the cheapest one and the one that gives the most AP first. So that would be the necklace, followed by either a belt or a ring first at pen. I think the belt is slightly cheaper, but we'll look at that as well. In terms of other accessories, so we have Tungrad necklace, ogre, and latent. They all give the same AP. The difference is the Tungrads will be giving the 3 and 5 set effect like AP bonus and Black Spirit Rage, which make these slightly more valuable. So if you were to ask me this a year ago, I would have been like, oh, just get an ogre because it's fine, and then it's like it's not that bad for the value. But as time goes on, like straight up, here's what I'd recommend for most people who are getting into it. I would just save up for a Deboreka and then buy one at like Tet, and then that'll be good to hold you off until you're ready to enhance it to pen. Other than that, if you are a big PvPer and you want the 5-piece for Black Spirit Rage and AP, it's not a bad choice. So if you're going for the Tungrad route, do that over Ogre and Leighton. Otherwise, Deboreka is always the good option. Let's talk about belt next instead of earrings. We'll talk about earrings last because there's more choices. So Deboreka belts. Let's look at the price. $247. Yeah, these are slightly higher than the necklaces, but they're not as expensive as the rings in terms of 24 AP. So your order of priority would probably be number 1, going for the necklace, 2, the belt, 3, maybe the rings, and then we'll talk about the earrings last. So yeah, price for belts. The fact that you can buy a pen Debo at like any given time nowadays is kind of insane. I think that's awesome, but at the same time, it's like if the price keeps going down even further, you might as well just like start saving and just buy it whenever. Tabex belt. When we get the new things in 2 weeks, there's going to be 2 new accessories that are equivalent to this. So if you don't know, let me just try to explain it. So Tabex belt is a unique one because it gives you a skill when you use it. So you see this Blessing of Tabek. Depending on the tier, it's like a thing that gives you a burst, kind of like pressing your E, Q, or something, whatever class you're playing, the buff button. So basically you have this, and if you look at the difference between a pen Debo that I have versus a pen Tabek, that is a 7 AP difference, just across the board. But what you look at is the pen set effect, where it's like you get plus 30 AP, 50 DP, and accuracy for 1 minute. So basically for 1 minute, it allows you to do a big burst, which I think is more used in PvP across the board. And the downside is like you can't just put the belt on, use the effect, and then swap back to your main. You're stuck using it for 10 minutes, and that's why it makes me believe that this is a PvP item, because it gives the buff to some of your group members as well. So like only one person needs it, and then all the big damage people get the buff, and then one person is basically playing support DPS. So only one person needs to run it, but you're stuck with basically minus 7 AP for 10 minutes. You can't just swap it. And I've always given my feedback on how I would change this and to make it more competitive with like straight up damage. And so, yes, I do believe there should be a cooldown for using this skill. However, what I would do is lower that cooldown from 10 minutes to 5 or 3 minutes. Just because like as gear goes up, especially with sovereign weapons, when people are getting like 5, 6, 7 more AP in total, these belts are going to be a little bit less relevant because, you know, like people are just going to want more flat damage across the board versus, you know, like a big burst and then back to lower. So I don't think these are bad. I just think that these need to be tweaked a little bit. And so there's going to be 2 more, like one necklace and I think an earring or something. So there's going to be 2 of these coming out, the same equivalent, but who knows how that'll play out. I'll talk about it when we get it on NA and I get to actually see what it does. And so we'll talk about that later. Okay, so we're talking about earrings now. This is a little bit of a tricky one, simply because Deboreka earrings at pen is still worse in terms of AP than a pen black disto. So the reason why you would use a Deboreka earring is because you want the 5-piece set effect to get the +8. And So basically you would get 1, 2, 3, 4, and then your 5th piece obviously has to be an earring. And then your other slot could be something else, like if you're a PvPer, you can get an accuracy earring, or you could just go damage if you're a PvEer. And so just keep in mind, there's one thing that people have always been asking me is like, when is a good time to swap to distortion earrings? Because if you look at this, distortion, you lose 5 DP when you use it, but it's like the glass cannon accessory, where you do more damage, but you trade off some survivability. And so I think whenever you hit around like 330 to 340 sheet AP, that's probably a good time to start considering distos. So if I had to put that into an AP value, when you can grind Elvia Orcs, which is like 260 and up, that's probably around when your gear is, for the most part, like stabilized, and you're not having like one random pen piece and then everything else is at like duo. So around 260 AP, whenever this pushes you past the 261 bracket, and also above 330 DP is when I think you should start considering it. And just keep in mind, if you have 2 of them, you're minus 10 DP, or minus 8 if you have 10, and so on. So yeah, just whenever you feel like you can grind Elvia Orcs safely is when I would recommend it. Valha's Dawn and Distos are the exact same thing. The difference is where you get them. You get this one from grinding, and you get these Valhas from Ataraxian dungeons. So let me look at this one. Pendisto, 67 billion. I remember paying, how much did I pay for this back in the day? Like 170 billion. So like, lol, minus the 110 billion for that. And then this one's at 65. So if you're thinking about buying one, just buy the cheapest one. These are the exact same items. The difference is where you get them. So let's keep that in mind. Dawn Earring is an accuracy accessory. The reason why this one hasn't fallen off as much is because this one is actually a flex spot. So like if your goal is to get the 5-piece set effect for Deboreka, you have 1 open piece. So if you want more damage or if you want more accuracy, those are options. And so the earring one is like, it didn't fall off as hard as the other ones. So you could do that. Everything else, Tungrat if you're going for the 5-piece effect. And that's really it. So a few other items I want to talk about. One being the Alchemy Stone. If you're a new player, you get the Ator's Power Stone from doing the Ulakita quest line. Let me show you what that looks like now. Yeah, it's this thingy. So the idea is you just want a permanent stone, and especially something that gives you sheet AP or something. So if you're a new player, chances are you're going to be using something a little bit different. And yeah, also Dosa coming out soon, Awakening. So let me see, do I have an extra one? I probably do. So these Spirit Stones, you get these from playing through seasonals, and basically these will carry you up to, once you're out of seasons and past level 61. The reason why you're using them is mostly for the AP against monsters, so +5. And then once you start getting out of the seasonal, like tutorial, I guess you can say, is when you should start going for the Ator's Power Stone, because like you mostly look at the effect more than the 1 AP. Obviously 1 AP is nice, but like the effect at the bottom in yellow text is a lot nicer. So I guess let me talk about what I think is worth and what isn't. So back in the day, I would have been like, oh, just get the Sharp Power Destruction Stone. I think that's fine. Nowadays, you have 2 options. The Khan's Heart or the Bel's Heart. Obviously, Khan's is a little bit cheaper. You can actually get this one for free by doing the Khan boss 3 times. So if your guild does it, it's probably recommended that you guys actually pick it up. Is it worth 4 billion silver? I really don't think so. I wouldn't buy it, but if your guild does it and you can get it for free, that's better, obviously. What I would do is just save up money and put an order on Devella's Heart and hope you get it. Like, straight up, go to Devella every week. I do it every week. I don't need it. I just go there. But yeah, just go to Devella, hope you get it. Otherwise, put an order on it and you also hope to get it. Because this is the end game for about 99% of people, and then you upgrade it. And then for the rest of like the people who are super carried and everything, the Splendid and Shining. So when you watch a streamer or another content creator and you see that they have a Splendid stone, and you're just like, oh, why are they using this versus a Vel? It's like you're losing 7 gear score or something like that, right? It's because if you look at the yellow text, which is more important, the Splendid gives 13 AP, right? And then if you use a Vel, you're getting 8 plus 3, so that's not 13. And then like the other stats are slightly higher as well. And then of course you would upgrade it with the DP. So you're basically losing 3 sheet AP, but you're making that up with the AP from the effect, which is slightly better. And the reason why endgame, I say it's for endgame players, is simply because like people like me, I can afford to drop 3 AP like on my sheet and not lose a bracket, and I would be gaining more with the Vel on versus, you know, like someone who's, I don't know, 270 AP and you haven't even gotten all the brackets for AP yet, where you could still get a lot of boosts versus diminishing returns. So for people like me, I could use a Splendid. I can trade off some AP, whereas some people actually need the +3 for your next bracket up. So like, you know, Awakening for me, it gives me a +2 for having 331 versus like 289 or 329. So yeah, Splendid is better, but if you're already past like 750 or so gear score. So I hope that makes sense. But for the most part, Vel is fine. It's not a big deal. If you have Vel, it's good. I think that Pearl Abyss completely forgot about Alchemy Stones. And so I just truly hope they make an equivalent to Splendid in the future. And that's a new upgrade going forward. So that way everyone can progress. The way you would get a Splendid now is basically self-crafting it or getting it from one of those event boxes that like maybe like 2 people of the entire server get every time. So yeah, it's just one of those things that I wanted to talk about. And I think that's for the most part it. I guess let's look at Life Gear. Ever since they allowed chroning of Lifeskill Gear these days, I think that the prices have been a little bit on the down, but I think that's also a good thing. Okay, so not all of them are needed at Manos. I think the important ones are the cook's clothes, simply because if you do any cooking, you do Imperial Delivery as well. So Imperial Delivery values your mastery more than XP. So you do use both of them, but for different things. So I think Manos cook clothes is, you know, very important. This is something worth getting. Fishing, I'll be honest, I literally don't even know what it's worth getting it for. Like if you have a Tet Fisher clothes, I think that's fine. Like I don't know enough about fishing to tell you what the difference between like 100 mastery is. Like I know what it does. Mastery allows you to catch rarer fish and sell it for more, I think. But that seems so rare to the point where investing 45 billion into a pen for the extra 100 mastery is probably not worth it. I know there's a rare ocean thing you can fish up that like literally one person has gotten in 8 years and they're not even on the NA server. I think they're in Korea. So it's one of those things where I'm not sure if investing 40 billion plus into a pen is worth it. But if you have a Tet one, sure, that's cool. Sailing clothes is always worth doing if you do sailing. Manos is alchemy clothes are definitely worth it. And of course, gathering is worth it. Crafting, I'm not too sure. It speeds up the time of your like auto processing, but like it's kind of semi AFK. And how often are you coming back to check and reset your processing? So if you're gone for longer, then you kind of like you craft more at a time. Your weight fills up faster. It does it faster, which is a good thing, but if you want to AFK longer, I don't think this is better. So it just depends on how often you're AFK for, and then there's everything else in terms of weapons. So yeah, that's about it. All the notable items that I wanted to talk about. And yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the comments. Happy to point you guys in the right direction. We have sovereign weapons coming out, new accessories, and a few other things. So hopefully I gave you my thoughts and opinions on everything so you can make a choice of what you're going to do in the future. And of course, we'll be making videos and talking about that when it happens. But that's all from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, drop a quick like on the video. Maybe hit that subscribe if you're new as well. And I make a lot of BDO videos. I've been playing this game for, I guess, 8 years now since the game came out. I played the beta, and yeah, I just like sharing all the knowledge of everything I've experienced with you guys, especially if you're new, and hopefully it helps. So that's all I wanted to talk about today. I am out. I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.